Thank you very much for joining us. As always, let's talk law and order this week with an important player in the criminal justice system here in Massachusetts. He's not just the sheriff of Norfolk County, but also president of the Massachusetts Sheriff's Association, Patrick McDermott, who won a special election in 2020 and then election to a full 6-year term in 2022. Sheriff, good to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, John. Appreciate it.
So, last March, you traveled to Washington to lobby the president, the attorney general, and the FBI director to protect federal funding for substance abuse programs and mental health counseling, a big part of what sheriffs do these days. Did they protect the funding or not?
Well, let me just jump in real quick and just say about, what we are as Massachusetts sheriffs. 14 of us representing the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, from the Berkshires all the way down to Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. And our principal role as sheriffs are the care and custody of those individuals in the criminal justice system that come into our care and custody. And most of those individuals are dealing with mental health issues as well as substance use disorder. And so when we talk about funding cuts that come into the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, no matter what partisan level you're at, those funding cuts are extreme when it comes to what are the works that we're trying to do, rehabilitate people and put them back on the streets.
So the cuts did happen?
The cuts have consisted. We don't know yet necessarily. We're waiting to hear whether Governor Healy has been. Our budgets have maintained themselves pretty well, at least this fiscal year.
State budget.
State budget for us, for sheriffs. We had a slight decrease going into fiscal year 26 across the board. However, we've been able to maintain the services that we need. We're a little bit nervous, though, because there's a significant amount of money that goes into our medically assisted treatment program. That all of the Massachusetts sheriffs were on the cutting edge years ago. We were on the forefront of that nationally, and the leaders in that. And so it's an expensive program. However, it is a successful program, and there's been research that shows that medically assisted treatment programs work.
Did you come away from that meeting in March feeling like that was acknowledged?
I think so. We've had a couple of different meetings at a high level with that. I'd like to have a little bit more one-on-one discussions. I think the major county sheriffs of America, as well as the national sheriffs, do have the ear of this administration, and so we've made sure that issue is forefront on the president's mind, and certainly of all of his cabinet secretaries.
Well, as we were taping this late this past week, the Attorney General of the United States was reportedly planning to announce the reopening of Alcatraz, the old federal prison in San Francisco Bay. It's been closed for more than half a century, coming on the heels of this alligator Alcatraz, this immigrant detention center in the Everglades. They seem to be fascinated with this cultural symbol of the harshest possible incarceration tactics. What do you think of that? Is that a good idea that can help deter crime, or foolishness?
Well, I think that idea has come and gone. I think that Hollywood, as well as sometimes reality, has sensationalized, lock them up, throw away the key, don't feed them. And that hasn't worked. The Massachusetts sheriffs stand for 21st century corrections practices, and that means a total investment in rehabilitation. We focus on reentry beginning on day one. We focus on, yes, we recognize that people are in the criminal justice system for having violated crimes, and there are victims, obviously, in these crimes as well. We don't want to be forgetful of that. But when it comes to what we do in the sheriff's offices, what we do focusing on every day in corrections, and I talk about elected officials when I go out to select boards or city councils or have discussions with mayors, these individuals that are coming into our care and custody are coming back to live in Quincy and in Newton and in Wellesley. They're coming back into these communities. So we need to give back a better product than we received, and that's why reentry begins on day one in the Massachusetts Sheriff's Office.
We have to take our break, but just to make clear, you're not someone who believes that these approaches, rehabilitation, preparing, dealing with substance abuse and so forth, have gone too far, have gone to the point of coddling criminals.
Absolutely not. No, I think there is still a very strict discipline approach to corrections as well. I mean, these folks have lost their freedom, and they're with us, and they're under strict guidelines as to what they need to do to get back on the street.
And it's not a country club.
It is not a country club, not far.
Sheriff, hold that thought. We'll continue our conversation on law and order with the Sheriff of Norfolk County in just a moment, so please stay with us. Welcome back to our conversation with Patrick McDermott. He's the Sheriff of Norfolk County and President of the Massachusetts Sheriff's Association. And Sheriff, right now, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you can keep a prisoner for up to 2.5 years.
Correct.
There's legislation on Beacon Hill, and I was told that you're for this, that would expand that you could keep someone for up to 10 years. What's the benefit of that?
So right now we're looking at putting together a commission to discuss this issue. It's something that we want to look at. 2.5 years in the House of Correction is not necessarily something that happens all the time. The average inmate that comes in spends about 6 months at most with us. Not many people spend most of the time as a sentenced inmate. We do have pretrial detainees that can serve and wait trial for up to 2, sometimes 3 years. We believe that as Massachusetts sheriffs, we're closest to the local level. These individuals that are getting incarcerated, as I said before, are going back to live in the communities where they come from. Elected sheriffs, we have direct impact over the partnerships with the local nonprofit agencies, the faith-based institutions, where the jobs are in our local communities. So we believe that for those crimes that can be with a conviction serving maybe 5 to 10 years, could be best served being rehabilitated locally. And the Massachusetts sheriffs, all of us elected within our respective counties, know where the services are. We know how to connect those individuals. Because it's not about just doing time. It's about that post-incarceration continuum of care, whether it's mental health counseling, substance use treatment, job, education opportunities. And we feel as though locally is the best option.
You're going to need more funding if that happens.
Of course. And,
right.
We work collaboratively with our partners in the Department of Corrections as well as parole and probation. And we're in the process of having discussions with all of those agencies right now in terms of what are the best practices for all of us to participate in.
Sheriff, you work closely, correct me if I'm wrong, with the DA's office, right, in Norfolk County?
Correct.
Michael Morrissey's the DA there. He's taking a lot of heat for his handling of the Karen Reed case. Do you have full confidence in him?
I do. Full disclosure, I was Mike Morrissey's aide at the State House.
Yeah.
I worked with him for a couple of years there. He was a man that has consistently served with integrity and honor. I consider him a friend. DA is a tough role. I was a former prosecutor in the Suffolk County DA's office many, many moons ago. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of decisions have to be made, and you get them right, you get them wrong sometimes. And Mike Morrissey is a man of high integrity. And I think that when the dust settles on the Karen Reed case, as well as many other cases that Mike has had to prosecute over the course of his tenure, and he will continue to do so. He's going to have to, answer to that and answer the people, and he's one person that I know can do that.
I'm kind of curious, as someone in law enforcement, Alan Jackson, the outstanding defense attorney who handled Karen Reed's defense, along with others, has a case out in L.A. now, a drunk driver who killed several people, and guess what? Social media has been mobilized to claim a conspiracy among law enforcement to frame this alleged perpetrator. Sounds familiar to those of us around here. Do you have concerns about this emerging set of tactics?
I'm not sure if it's a tactic necessarily. I mean, the similarities, I guess. I'm not familiar with the L.A. case with Attorney Jackson, but the Karen Reed case took on a life of its own. Yeah. It can be problematic, I think, for law enforcement to do their job. Well, I think that the increased scrutiny is something that is welcomed by law enforcement to look into the procedures and processes. However, when it comes to law enforcement and when it comes to prosecuting cases, as we all know, a lot of evidence can't get admitted for various reasons, and sometimes the Commonwealth has a high bar to prove on these cases, and it's certainly beyond a reasonable doubt whether or not a crime has occurred. And I think that sometimes your average citizen, I know I was prior to law school, didn't quite understand all the intricacies and the nuances of our criminal justice system. It is a high bar to set, and I think that Massachusetts and the United States have done so, that we are a country of laws. We are a country that certainly John Adams himself, who I'm a big fan of, started about representing the toughest of crimes and made sure that trial by jury and representation was of paramount importance for everybody. And I think that that's sometimes lost in some of the social media and the sensationalism of some of these criminal activities.
Interesting. Well, you've got a tough job and you got a lot of pressure. Good luck going forward. Come back again, please.
No doubt about it. A lot of issues dealing with the sheriff's offices. So thank you, John.
Good to have you. Thank you. And thank you for joining us. Now, back over to my colleagues for more WBZ News.